or good afternoon, everyone. Um, I would like to give my presentation on the topic on paper that I have published, which is root-based 3D reconstruction of multiple human poses. So I'll start with a brief overview of what the paper is about. So this paper focuses on 3D pose estimation, representation, and exploring the ways to convert a flat video into 3D humanoids in virtual environment. Now, I'll get into details about what this means, but this is what the paper aims for. We have introduced a new pipeline to achieve this, and we have assessed its performance through various techniques. Uh, this study aims to act as a valuable resource for researchers. Since this pipeline is new and it can be used for as a base for further research, this can be a valuable resource. So from here on onwards, I'll go one step at a time, and I'll first take the chance to basically show what the basic the fundamental terms of the all the fundamental term means here. So I'll try to show what all the fundamental term means, and then I'll try to stitch together a picture that makes the most sense. So very quickly, what is 3D animation? So 3D animation is creation of moving 3D objects in three-dimensional digital space. So, since the very beginning, any movement of 3D objects can be considered as a 3D animation, which can be recorded and then played back again in probably a 3D software. So, this can actually help in a visual appeal, communication, and innovation. And this is the small history. There is a small history of 3D animation. So 1960s to 1970s was the first time that anyone experimented with CGI, which is basically computer graphics. At that time, it was very premature, and the results were not up to the mark. 1980s were the time where films like The Tron and The Last Street Fighters were showcased, and the potential of CGI was actually explored. 1995 became the first feature film. Toy Story became the first feature film that was feature length. So it was around 2 hours. So it was one of the first animated movies which was full length. Uh, in the present time, there are rapid advancement in animation industries, and 3D animation is used in video games, advertisement, architecture, everywhere, in a lot of different places. Now, I like to explain the term of motion capture. So, motion capture, or as it is called mocap, are digitally recorded movements, and they when they are translated into real data, so that becomes motion capture. So, any movement of human body which when is captured and then converted into real data, that is called motion capture. So, this process of motion capture is generally done through sensors or markers, which basically capture the data and then processes the data in a software, 3D software. You can see some of the examples here for a few movies where the person is wearing this suit, which basically tracks the movement, and you can see here as well. Now, motion capture is used very frequently in animated movies and in movies in general. It is also used in video games, biomechanics, and human movement analysis. Biomechanics is basically the term for understanding human motion and doing analysis on it. Even the new age virtual reality and augmented reality devices use motion capture to understand how the users are how the users are using their devices. Now, a brief history of motion capture. So, in the very earlier, in the earliest of times, frames by frame tracking of objects, of 3D objects, was the only way to do motion capture. That was the only way to do data collection, and that was the only way to do data reconstruction as well. 1970s saw the first uh, 1970s saw the first set of devices that can actually do motion capture. One such devices was Vicon. Vicon used optical markers and camera to do motion capture. Uh, Moving on in 1980s and 1990s, there was the adoption of marker-based technology, which basically means suit. These suits used magnetic and optical mocap. By magnetic mocap, it means these suits had sensors, which when the moment, whenever there was a moment uh, while someone was wearing this mocap suits, it was recorded and then fed into the 3D softwares. 2000s to present, everyone is moving towards markerless motion capture, which is using normal phones, which is using depth sensors at times and sometimes without depth sensors as well. We generally tend to use now computer vision algorithms to get the accurate estimate of human poses. uh, the advent of AI was really helpful in having this technology be utilized for motion capture. The biggest challenge before 1980s and 1990s was the problem of not being able to understand depth. Without the advent of AI, it was very challenging to understand the depth of these points. As soon as AI came into the industry, in the tech industry, it became rather easy using pre-trained models to track and capture human poses. Now, the third term that I would like to introduce in this presentation is 3D reconstruction. So 3D reconstruction means recreating body position and orientation from captured data. So this term is used in conjunction with 3D pose detection. Uh, 3D reconstruction would mean from taking simple images and converting into 3D models. Data, uh, we use different kinds of datas and we use different kinds of algorithms to reconstruct these 3D human poses. And it has various applications in virtual reality, animation, biomechanics, scene investigations, in fact, all these cases. Now, a brief history of 3D reconstruction as well. Uh, Earlier, back in the days before 2000s, the only way to reconstruct a 3D human body was manually. So there was no tools and techniques available to do it. 2000s introduced computer vision, uh, computer vision techniques to pose estimation in 3D reconstruction. And following on, machine learning and deep learning uh, algorithms came into the technology industry, and people started using them for reconstructing 3D humans. Now I'm taking this term 3D humans and I'm using it very conjugately because 3D reconstruction can happen for different kinds of data. It happens for data which are non-humanoid as well. It happens for data where we have to predict the proximity. It happens for data where we have to uh, uh, reconstruct a surface like moon. A moon surface reconstruction is another hot topic in 3D reconstruction. So I am specifically talking about human pose reconstruction here. And recently, in the 3D reconstruction field, people are using markerless system with depth sensors and AI in pipeline with 3D pose detection. Now, what is the problem that this paper is aiming to solve, or what is the problem that we have identified? So, while having all these terms working individually, there is a need for accurate 3D pose estimation and representation. And this is very crucial for applications in virtual reality, animation, game production, computer aided design, and various other places. Uh, these tasks individually are very costly and they take a lot of time to be executed. Um, one example of such one example of such uh, program would be using mocap system by itself. This can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $25,000 depending on the software, and these mocap studios take around 1 to 2 days to develop simple 5 seconds of animations as well. Now we have identified this problem and we have proposed a solution, which is a cost-effective approach which uses just the normal RGB cameras, and it uses some algorithms to perform pose reconstruction. Now I would like to play a small video to demo what our uh, pipeline can do. Um, I'm sorry. I hope everyone could see it.
Yeah, it was visible.
Okay. Moving on, I would like to explain what exactly happened in this video and what we were aiming to solve. So this video showcased that how a 3D video, a RGB video, can then be converted into accurate 3D human pose. And I would like to showcase now. I would like to bring out each step that we have used to make this happen, one by one, and I would like to go into greater details in explaining each of these subjects, each of these steps. So, what is our approach? So, our approach starts with identifying what we have in our as our input. So, videos comprises of sequential images depicting dynamic scenes with moving people. So our first key is there. We used these videos to convert them from videos to individual frames, which then made it easy for us to process them and to process the data faster. So we identified and separated individual frames from the videos. The next step for us was clustering those, these videos based on visual similarity, and this was done to one. Okay, so there is one more step after the initial phase, which includes identifying and separating individuals within each frame. So after basically splitting videos, frames from videos, we used uh, uh, instant segmentation technique to identify each individuals from the frames. Now, this was done in order to again make the execution faster, since motion capture on multiple humans is very difficult and is very compute heavy. So we segmented all the different humans in the video into individual images. We then cluster and organize these segmented frames into clusters, first based on visual similarity. Now, this step is an important step to produce the input that we would need in our final step. Uh, in our next step, we do pose extraction of each of these segmented frames and generate a movement, uh, generate 3D movement from those extracted images. So we analyze spatial arrangement of key body points of each of these frames, which are already clustered. So at the end of this step, we have a 3D motion available to us. And for the last step, we use retargeting, where we use 3D humanoid model to retarget our 3D data that we have captured and make animations from it. So I'll go in detail in all of these steps, and I think that would give much more clarity. So frame split, as I mentioned previously. So videos are sequential images, are sequential RGB images, which needs to be converted into individual images to be processed further. So we used tools, utilized FFmpeg for splitting the frames in the pipeline. We measured the speed of FFmpeg, which was close to 917 frames per second, and this enables the division of video data into manageable segments, crucial for clustering and analysis, which are important steps in the pipeline. As you can see, this is a simple video which is converted into frames. The next step is instant segmentation. So, instant segmentation is the step wherein we convert a video into or sorry we convert an image into smaller images which contains instances of humans. So let's take an example of this video. Here we do object detection and crop isolated individual instances. So considering there are at least 25 humans here, we will have 25 extracted images from this single image, and all these images are then stored in the memory. We used an algorithm called YOLO V7, which is very popular and is one of the AI model which is state of the art. We also fine tuned this YOLO V7 model on multiple human videos to enhance its accuracy. Uh, we When performing this operation, we found that the accuracy of this model and the average precision was 0.85 on the validation set that we separated out from our total data. So in this step, I just to reiterate, in this step we segment the instances, individual humans that are present in the video, and make images or extract images from it. Now these images are clustered together. Uh, these individual images, which are extracted from each and every frame, are clustered together to make a set of images which can then be converted into uh, uh, time-based animations. So we used VGG16, which is a clustering algorithm which loads and pre-processes images and extracts feature and finds similarity between different images. We use this clustering algorithm to cluster images from different time frames and make a group of it, which can then be utilized to make a time-based animation sequence. So we group frames with similar features. The accuracy of this clustering algorithm on ImageNet data was shown to be 92.7%. It was similar to what we found in our test as well. So at the end of this step, we have a set of images for different humans present in the video, which is time based and shows the moment of those individual humans. Now, the next step involves pose extraction from these videos or these image sequence. We use something called as mocapnet since it's very easily comparable and because it is very easily compatible with 3D graphic engine and it seamlessly integrates with them, which is what the next step involves. So, MoCapNet is a neural network ensemble designed for 3D human pose estimation. Uh, MoCapNet extracts or processes 3D biovision hierarchy skeletons from estimated 2D human body joint projection, which are nothing but the clustered images that we have produced in the next step. So this basically involves converting those sequence of images into 3D biovision hierarchy files. Uh, Biovision hierarchy files or biovision hierarchy skeletons is a template or a file type or a data storage technique which is used to categorize 3D human pose data into a format which can then be reproduced. And hence 3D biovision hierarchy skeletons are very important in this whole pipeline. They can be used to uh, retarget 3D animation, 3D human animations later. To measure the uh, uh, efficiency of MoCapNet, we executed MPJPE, which is mean per joint proximity error, which is a technique through which we get to know how much distance was there between two joints, and if the distance is the least and the error is the least, we get to know that the extraction is performing well, and a higher score would mean the extraction is not very well. So we tried to execute this on try to execute this extraction, and we found that the resolution for the images of resolution 1080 and 1 person, we got a we got a MPJPA score of 3.3. For two people, it was 3.2. Three people, it's 3.4. Four people, it was 3.3. And it was in a similar range for all the 1080 videos. But as you see, going lower in the resolution decrease the MPJPA score drastically, and it increases further. Uh, it increases most for a single person video, and it decreases for multiple person videos. And this the reason for this could be understanding the pixel density of a particular image. A 240 pixel video with a single humans has a lot of pixel density, and hence understanding 3D human pose from that images is a little difficult. Now, what does pose extractions from mocap net looks like? So we have a RGB input, which is our clustered images, from which we detect the 2D joints, and this is done using basically which this is done basically by using heat maps, which figures out where the different joints are, which are different spaces, and then it estimates where the human pose would be. There is a ENSRM conversion that happens after it, and a PCA done after it, which then ensembles all the different body parts: hands, lower body, upper body, mouth, eyes, and then gets converted into 3D BVH output after HCD fine tuning, which is basically understanding the proximity or the probability of a certain body part being present there. This is how this is how mocapnet basically converts uh, image data into 3D poses. I cannot go in greater details in about this subject in this presentation, but the mocapnet is one of the state of the art model to convert RGB data into 3D BVH output. Now, the last step of this whole pipeline involves pose retargeting. And as I mentioned before, we had BVH files and 3D models which are used to retarget skeletal motion data. Now, this BVH file can be any previous recording that you had done on a video, and then it can be retargeted for a 3D model, and that makes the 3D model react or animate the same human pose sequence as it was previously recorded. BVH files are first imported into 3D software and applied to corresponding 3D models, enabling realistic motion retargeting. This we used Blender for this 3D visualization, where we imported the BVH files, created a 3D humanoid skeleton representation, and applied realistic texture and lighting effect to recreate the sequence. The entire architecture of the pipeline looks something like this. It starts with an input video where we perform YOLO V7 instance segmentation, object detection and cropping, and we isolate individual instances of all these images. We convert this video to picture and using YOLO V7, and uh, we use instance segmentation and obtain all the frames and instances in the video, in convert them into a .jpg format. We have in the next step we receive the cropped isolated individual instances, where we perform VGG16 clustering to group frames with similar features, and we form clustered frames which are of single human subjects, and that gets converted into a FFmpeg video for compilation and animation. We then use mocap-net estimation and BVH generation to estimate 3D human body pose of these clustered frames and generate biovision hierarchy skeletons from it. Now, these BVH files are are imported into any 3D model and imported and retargeted for a 3D humanoid model. We apply 3D environmental representation and realistic 3D humanoid skeletons to show the final output and result in the virtual 3D environment. Now, in the same way, there are other alternative approaches where we have figured out there are other alternative approaches which are proposed for similar kind of processing, such as SMPL. So, basically, SMPL utilizes a parametric models that fits best with 2D detection, and then it uses 2D detection and it is basically a human body framework similar to BVH files. But the major problem with SMPL is that SMPL struggles with complex poses, and 2D pose estimation, converting it into 3D is a little difficult. Another approach is volumetric detection, where we represent the body as a 3D volume and directly regress the pose from the data. It it This is another approach that is used generally and is proposed in this subject. And the problem with this is that it is computationally very expensive and requires large data set for training. So this option is very computationally heavy, and that is why it was rejected in our approach. Now, finally, heat map based prediction. So there are also methods which involves heat map representing the likelihood of body joint location, and relatively lightweight and efficient. This is relatively lightweight and efficient. However, the problem with this is that 3D body reconstruction with it requires other techniques such as inverse kinematics or other body joints estimation. Since retargeting pictures with solely with heat maps can lead to ambiguous results, and it's not very accurate. What is mean per joint position error? So this is a common metric used to evaluate the performance of human pose estimation algorithm. It measures the average distance between the predicted joints of human skeletons and the ground truth joints in the given dataset, which is what the MPJP uh, algorithm is trained on. So the algorithm and the formula looks like this. So 1 by nj and 1 times 1 by nf times the summation of pfj minus p cap fj. So the nf stands from frames and a skeleton of nj joints, and it compares the predicted post p cap here with the ground truth post p at the same joint for the same frame. So this basically is the differentiation, or like the difference between uh, uh, the ground post truth and the predicted post, and for each and every of the frame, for each and every of the frame. We had consistent results with MPGPA scores, and our results were similar to the scores of POSNet as we did our estimation. So, for each of these resolution 1080p, 720p, 480p, we saw a similar model for 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and 6%, where we see a constant, where we see similar trends for for more than number of people, but we saw reduction in we saw higher MPJPE scores for low resolution and single and low people videos. Is This is what we saw even for our pipeline process pipeline. Now, what are the future direction where we would like to take this paper? We are exploring different techniques to enhance efficiency and accuracy without compromising performance. We are trying to extend our model to support complex dynamic pose. This includes poses for animals, which are not similar to what human poses are. We're trying to understand diverse application where it can be used, such as crowd control, scene analysis, and game reconstruction. And we are also trying to go into the direction of ground plane estimation, and developing we are developing algorithm for precise object positioning relative to ground plane. So thank you everyone.